Our story continues on the Mount Crumpet.
Hello, everybody. Peace, 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 people. Today, I really want to talk about destiny swapping. I have heard this type of thought given by various people on YouTube, but it wasn't really thoroughly expressed what it was. And I did a little looking around to see if someone could explain what destiny swapping is. What came to mind was the story in the Bible about Esau and Jacob. Jacob having a birthright and Esau basically wanting to take the birthright right away. And he was basically tricked into giving it up for food. And I think that in a lot of ways, people are assuming that Black Americans should give up their birthright for the advancement of other groups of other immigrants. And when I think about destiny swapping, I kind of liking it to what the immigrants through the Democrats have been attempting to do against the indigenous American Blacks. And this will be explained through this video. I hope that you guys will stay tuned and give your thoughts about what you're hearing. This is not meant to be an attack against anybody, but I do believe that a lot more people should advocate for the Black Americans of America. There are too many voices that are taking hold of our narrative, and I do believe that Trump has a lot to do with changing what has been going on around, with him tightening up on the immigration situation with illegals and getting rid of people that are scamming the system. It would basically help and support us from not having our birthright here in America, because it was looking like we were pretty much being replaced by Joe Biden. Joe Biden did a number in 4 years that, now we are all witnessing, and Trump is doing all that he can to turn it around. So this will be about that. Let me find my first video about destiny swapping for us to understand where I'm coming from. It's kind of hard to express this conversation because so many people are not from America that are wanting to see things stay the same. And it's kind of unnerving to know that a lot of people are not going to be in support of the necessary change that we need to see to help stabilize America and bring it back from what it was doing wrong. It is not very easy to be on the side of what's right for the country, because there's so many people that are just against America surviving. So for those that are American, whether you're white, Black, or whatever, legal Americans, maybe some of the video you can take some of the understanding that I'll be showcasing, and I hope that people would just respect the video overall. It's not meant to be hateful. It's just explaining the destiny swap and the severity of why we need to appreciate all the things that Trump's doing to try to stop that attempt from happening. So let me get to the first video. Fair use of videos that I show under the Copyright Act of 1976 for education, observation, information, entertainment, all the above, not meaning to impose, but to inform, and not to impose. Sheena says they want us to be sacrificial lambs for everyone, especially for Africa and Africans. That's exactly what it is. Interesting that you said that. On my other channel, I put, let me see, I'll read it to y'all. For those that are wondering, my other channel is still up, but I'm not on that channel right now. I have somehow lost my passcode to remember to operate it anymore. That's why I'm on this backup channel. But what I said in my description is this is a continuously lasting channel telling truths about Black Americans ought to know now for our identity and survival. The demonic ones thinks we are sacrificial lambs for the one world order and Africa's puppets. I joined that channel in October 20th of 2021. I have over 3 million views, 3,832,401 views. You guys should, if you could find that channel. There are more people that are already subscribed to it, but just so that you know, there's a lot of information on that channel that goes back since 2021. And this channel is just my backup. But the point is that I recognized in 2021 the attempt to hijack Black Americans' identity, to remix it, to make it into a Pan-Africanized type of vibration for other groups of people to come over and still utilize our name, pretending to be us whenever they need to, and then going in and out of our identity, using their identity when they had set-asides, and then using the term of African American or Black American to get those other set-asides, which is double dipping. This in and out of our identity is basically allowing and allotting the advancement of other groups of people utilizing our name, and at the same time keeping us locked down into that category, and competing with the benefits that were meant specific to us. This is why we have basically delineated. I never knew for many years, y'all, that other groups of people would come over here to hustle the system, like I realized back in 2021, and actually before that, but I just made mention of it in 2021. I discovered this stuff totally in 2018, to be frank with you. But it was just interesting how people kept getting online and arguing specifically with us about who and what we're calling ourselves. And I was just like, why are they so interested in how we call ourselves and what we want to say we are, how we want to view ourselves, and all of that? It's because they want to do a destiny swap. They want us to be locked in on the African American terms so that they can be able to be tangled up in that title and also benefit off of it at the same time. And because we are making our voices known about, we are not wanting to be associated with African American, we don't want to be associated with Pan-Africanism. A lot of people all their hustles are basically going up in smoke. It's going up in smoke. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So yeah, let me start with the first video. I'm going to go kind of slow today. There's no need for me to rush. I really want to get a clear understanding of what I mean. So bear with me. You will get all that I mean to get. But Destiny Swap is very, very real. And I believe that people are actively using a lot of different tactics to apply against us. And right now, Trump has blocked their efforts to destiny swap us because of all the things he's doing with immigration. And he's highlighting different scams that are out here. And that is part of the destiny swap too, by the way.
People are walking through life, carrying destinies that are not theirs, lessons diverted, purposes exchanged, and glory stolen. Destiny swapping occurs when the enemy, through demonic manipulation, exchanges a person's divine purpose with something counterfeit. It can happen through evil covenants, demonic dreams, witchcraft, ungodly altars. In this video, you will learn how destiny swaps.
Speaking of which, a lot of Africans are into witchcraft, juju, and other ancestral, like spiritual stuff that I don't know nothing about, but people have talked about juju and talked about people using potions and different remedies to attach themselves to people's money, to attach themselves to make people fall in love with them, to do other slick maneuvers that ties and bonds people to them. So it's very interesting that this is, I believe, an African woman who is going to tell us what Destiny Swap is, because I believe that a lot of them are trying to use, in my opinion, juju and other situations to try to Destiny Swap again with against Black Americans. Because why I say that? Every time I turn around on YouTube, there was a lot of voices of Africans that was trying to convince Black Americans to go to Africa. And most of them that was trying to convince us to go were in America, telling us that we needed to go in their place. That is reminiscent to the energy that they were putting out there to try to create the momentum, the movement, to feel at ease to do what they're suggesting and trying to encourage and sometimes bash or trick or scare us into believing that's what we needed to do. And all of them, wherever they come from, specifically in Africa, they are separate in Africa as far as their tribes, as far as their nations, and all of that, and religions and spiritualities and all that. But when they come to America, I've noticed that they are linked together arm in arm with the notion of telling us to go to Africa. I don't hear a whole host of Africans in America trying to discourage us from going to Africa like that. They're trying to tell us in so many words that we ought to go touch down and get involved, you know, while they're here in America. So that, again, is the energy that they put out there to try to encourage us to do what they're not doing themselves. Let's go.
Happen. The signs that yours may have been tampered with, and most importantly, how to take it back through the power of prayer, scripture, and spiritual warfare. Your destiny is God's original plan for your life, His blueprint for your life, who you were created to be, the unique assignments you were born to fulfill, and the blessings attached to your purpose.
And the fact that Black Americans have our birthright here in America. And what's deeply controversial is that Trump is trying to end birthright citizenship for people that are deliberately scamming to get over here and drop off their anchor babies. He is disallowing that from being normalized, because that has been something I believe that the Democrats have allowed and encouraged for them to use when it was never, ever meant for them to use it in such a way. No other country is allowing you to just fly on in 9 months and have a child and become a citizen. The only place that has been allowed to happen all this time for decades, I don't know how many, but it feels like 50 to 60 years. Think about that. 50 to 60 years, people have been scamming the 14th Amendment. Trump is trying to make it where it's what it was really meant for, which is my lineage, the Indigenous American Blacks lineage. And if we continually share with others that are not from here, don't share the same lineage or the same history, and we just hand it over to them like it has been, it pretty much is destiny swapping the true people that it was meant to benefit, which is my lineage, not everybody and anybody's that decide to come over here. And I think that that is needed to have happen. I personally believe that it needs to be dealt with now versus never.
Spiritual realm, especially in the kingdom of darkness, destinies can be tempered with. Evil powers can manipulate, divert, exchange, or even bury a person's destiny, causing someone to live a life far beneath what God intended. This is not superstition. This is spiritual reality. In Genesis 25:29-34, we see a clear example of destiny exchange. Esau, the firstborn, was entitled to the birthright, a prophetic symbol of leadership.
Well, I had the names backwards. It's been a long time since I read the story. So we have Esau is actually the one that had the birthright. And he was the one that was the hunter. Now I kind of remember. He was the hunter. And Jacob had another position. And he came home from hunting and whatnot, and he was really, really hungry. And Jacob, the other son, had stew that he made. And he just kind of like told him, if you want to eat this, if you want to have what I just, made, you have to fork over your birthright. And he didn't think about or value the significance of his birthright and the weight of that. He trivialized what the birthright really meant, and he was only going off of temporary hunger emotion to make him give it up. And, he ended up losing his birthright, and his destiny was forever changed behind him doing that with his brother. And I just kind of believe that is kind of significant in thinking, if you are a Black American, and what your ancestors endured over here, they literally died for rights that we now, are not thinking about. But we ought to always remember how bad off it was years ago, and how we need to protect everything that we accomplish, so that those things never return. But we have to remember that those were our heritage. That's our birthright. That is our that's what we earned through blood, sweat, and tears. And if you allow others to share in the festivities of what your ancestors died over, and they just get it like it's nothing, they will, like they are doing now, disrespect the people that it was meant to have those birthrights. All over the place, immigrants are constantly ridiculing, bashing, degrading, claiming that we don't have a culture, claiming that we don't have any right here in America, claiming that we're not even Americans, claiming that we are not worthy of this and that and the other, while they are coming in our place to try to use everything attached to us to exchange the energy and the destiny. That's what we're having going on right now. You said any label other than African American, they are calling it a hate group. They are trying to block our delineation efforts. Yes, they are. But see, once Trump, I believe, to be honest, Sheena, Once he puts in cement that birthright citizenship, which is going to be very, very important. I'll get into a video about that. But if that is going to be stopped from others from being able to siphon that birthright from us, he's going to have to make it understood who is deserving of it and who is not. And it's going to help with the delineation because, of course, anybody immigrating over here can't claim what is attached to us any longer. And I think that that will make it easier if we get together and tell him or associates what we desire to call ourselves. We are definitely not wanting to call ourselves African American because too many people have basically bastardized that term. We don't want no association with that. We don't want anyone being able to scam the system based off of what we have learned or earned here as Americans. How are you doing, African Goddess and Edect? How are you guys both doing? Thank you for coming through. But yeah, let's get back to this video. She is talking prophetic about, destiny swapping. I believe she's African. And she's telling the story of Jacob and Esau. Let me rewind it a little bit for you guys to catch the beginning. And let's go through this.
Destiny, causing someone to live a life far beneath what God intended. This is not superstition. This is spiritual reality. In Genesis 25, 29 to 34, we see a clear example of destiny exchange. Esau, the firstborn, was entitled to the birthright, a prophetic symbol of leadership, blessing, and inheritance, but he gave it up to Jacob for a single meal. In the physical, it looked like just food, but in the spirit, a major transaction took place. Esau lost what was meant to define his future. That's how many people lose their destinies today through careless decisions, spiritual ignorance, evil manipulations, and demonic exchanges. Here are the most common ways destinies are swapped. 1. Through evil covenants. When someone knowingly or unknowingly enters demonic agreements through rituals, sacrifices, or occult initiation, the enemy can access and tamper with their divine path. 2. Through dreams. If you consistently dream of exchanging clothes or shoes or being given gifts by dark figures, can represent destiny manipulation. Some people dream they are being called by a different name or losing their identity. These are serious red flags. 3. Through sexual sins and ungodly soul ties. When you engage in sexual sin, especially with demon-possessed or spiritually polluted individuals, there can be a transfer or loss of virtue and destiny. 1 Corinthians 6 verse 16. He who joins himself to a harlot becomes one body with her. 4. Through words and naming. When wrong people speak curses or name a child in demonic ceremonies, it can alter that child's destiny. Proverbs 8.
And again, naming us over and over and over and over again has been what has been happening continuously here in America with Black Americans. We were called Negro. Some were a part of a Cherokee or other Indian group before they were changed into Negro or colored or mulatto, Afro-American, Black American, African American, freedmen, colored. All these categories that were basically vague on purpose, lacking a name, a concrete name to signal who we are as a group of people here in America. And people tuggle war with now the African American because they want us to stay in that category. Because again, we didn't know that immigrants were coming over here calling themselves Black and African American. I always assumed that they were prideful of their heritage, that they were proud Jamaicans or proud Nigerians or Ghanaians or whatever they were, that they would never like lower themselves because they had like this, a lot of them have a superiority complex when it comes to us. So I always just believed that they would always sign in what they were. It was up until hearing different platforms where Africans were outright saying, we can call ourselves African American. We're more African American than you. When they started saying that kind of thing, I was like, wait a minute. They're actually using our name because they were trying to destiny swap with us. That is the biggest scam out here, is to utilize that African American term. And I know that Trump knows this because he has hinted recently that we also know about the scam. Let me find that video. He did make mention about Black people knowing about the scam the most recently. And I think he's hinting to the fact of the African American term. I think that he knows he's not going to deal with it, but he knows what's what. He knows that Kamala Harris was bullshitting when she called herself an African American, because he outright said, I thought she was Indian. You know what I mean? So he kind of knows. Let me find this video. Let me say, Trump says Black Americans knows the scam, knows scam. He just recently said it at some type of gathering. Let me play this real quick.
Let me tell you, Black people love Trump. I got the biggest vote. I got the biggest vote with Black people. They know a scam better than anybody. They know what it is to be scammed. Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. We did great.
And we do know. We knew when Kamala Harris used African American, that was a scam. We didn't really get it until after Obama presidency, when he failed us, and we realized that claiming that he was Black like us was not actually the same. His father is from Kenya, was an immigrant. His mother was white from Kansas. He had no bearing to our lineage here on this soil. He had no understanding of our plight, and he didn't care. He didn't come to do anything for us, and we now understand, our eyes have been opened, that we cannot base our vote simply off of color, because we have to know how their mind is thinking. Where do they come from? Who are they having allegiance to? Who are they ally shipping with? Who are they holding hands with at the end of the day? It was after Obama, that's when I really woke up, to be honest, especially the second term. And when Kamala Harris tried to play the African American card, that's when I understood that that was the biggest scam, a gateway of scamming by immigrants, because she's not even from our heritage or lineage. Her father's Jamaican and her mom's Indian. What's that got to do with me? So how is she able to utilize the so-called African American term? And Trump, he did call her out about not being, he didn't remember her being Black before. So he understands that that has been a scam. And I think that this would be the best time to let him know that we are rocking with him for setting us free from being destiny swapped. That's what I believe. Okay, let me see. I knew the scam before Obama. I try to tell as many of our people as possible, Zena says. He was the worst president for us Americans. He was great for the immigrants. You know that's right. You said, I tell our people, Africans and Caribbeans are not black like us. They're not. And I'm not trying to be rude, but when I say black, I don't think about Africans. I don't think about Caribbeans. I only think about the history here in America and how we've been affected here under that title of being called black. I've always called Africans what they were, where they came from. I always called Caribbeans what they are, where they came from. I don't want to have it confused to where when you say me, you're now talking about you, because you're canceling my voice by sharing my identity. And that has got to stop. This hijack attempt to destiny swap Black Americans out of their lineage and their birthright and their history and their plight has got to be stopped for good. And I'm glad that Trump is making every effort to do so. And, you know, interesting enough, I had a really heated conversation yesterday with my sister. She was, you know, I was telling her about, you know, a little bit about how bad off America would have been if Kamala would have ended up being the president. And she was just like telling me in her mind, she just couldn't rock with Trump. She just kept saying that he was a racist. And, you know, he made mention that he became a Republican because that is the dumbest group of voters. I never heard of Trump saying something to the effect of the dumbest group of voters were Republicans. And, you know, I told her, even if he did say that, that was probably a long time ago. And that, you know, we're in a really bad situation here in America with all the peoples that are over here illegally and how they are wrecking our economy, you know, and they are overloading and squeezing out the Americans. And so I had to side with Trump. No, I'm not a Republican, but I voted for him. First time ever voted for a Republican, because I did not want to see what it feels like it was happening, that we were turning into something else that could not be, I couldn't stand behind that. I could not stand for the destruction of America. But, you know, in case she does watch this video, I want to play this notion of what Trump had said before. Come to find out, it was just simply a rumor. But it's something that was stated by her. And she says that pretty much we're all dumb to believe that Trump will do anything for us. And I just don't believe that to be true. I don't believe everything about Trump. There's a lot of stuff I could say that I don't like about him, but I only want to focus on one thing at a time. I cannot spread myself thin to think about a list of things that he's doing wrong, because it's a big list of stuff that he's dealing with that he's doing right. So I'm just kind of like on the side of what he's here for, he's really doing, that I agree with. So am I to ignore that he's doing some things correct and some things that I might find, you know, fault for? I just don't have the energy to extend myself. I just can't do that. I have to focus on my life. I have to focus on my people. I have to focus on what is happening to us, or the attempt to hijack and to destiny swap against us. And if Trump can change that around, I have to support him in that regard. So let's look at what she claimed had happened. I just want you guys to see this real quick.
Claims circulating online stating that former President Donald Trump called Republican voters dumb. Ariane Till with our verified team looked into the political meme being shared on social media.
Former President Donald Trump has given a lot of interviews over the years. A meme being shared online claims to show a newspaper clipping quoting Trump from a 1998 People magazine interview where he disparaged Republican voters, saying, "If I were to run, I'd run as a Republican. They're the dumbest group of voters in the country." Several verified viewers, including Jackie, have emailed and texted us to ask if Trump really said this. So let's verify using these sources. This isn't the first time this meme has been shared on social media. A spokesperson for People told the Associated Press in 2019 that the magazine combed through every Trump story in our archive and didn't find that quote from Trump. Verify searched for the quote and only found various fact checks debunking it. Using Revi, a reverse image search tool, we found that the photo of Trump that's used in the meme comes from his 1988 appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Trump didn't make the disparaging comment about Republican voters during that interview either. So we can verify, Trump did not call Republicans the dumbest group of voters in a People magazine article or any other publication. The quote circulating on social media is fabricated. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till.
So he didn't say it supposedly, but she really got upset because she really believes that he said it. She really believes that he said it and that he's the most racist person in the world. And I had to get off the phone because I didn't want to cuss her out. I was like, I don't need to be getting into, a political battle. She can hold on to her opinion and I'll hold on to mine. But, I just want to showcase why I am in support of Trump, even though he's not perfect. He is not perfect, but he's for America, in my opinion. If you go back 4 years ago and you think about how Joe Biden was running stuff, and how things were looking under him, it's a big, big difference. And I want to go back to an older video real quick because I want to showcase where, in my mind, things turned for me to look at Trump different. I want to show a video that kind of woke me up in that regard. And this is that video. Hold on. I hate this commercials. Hold on. This is Senator John Thune, if I'm pronouncing it right. But he had something to say about 4 years ago.
Mr. President. Majority Leader. Mr. President, it wasn't long ago that the southern border was in a state of chaos. During the Biden administration, we routinely saw hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants arriving at the border in a single month. It was a situation that the Democrat senator from Pennsylvania likened to the population of the city of Pittsburgh showing up at the border. And that's to say nothing of the 1.9 million known gotaways who slipped into the country during the Biden years, or the suspected terrorists, gang members, and other criminals who are among those coming across our open border. And then there was the Biden administration's catch and release approach to illegal immigration, and the way the Biden administration abused asylum and parole to allow individuals to take up residence in our country. Mr. President, it's hard to believe that the Biden administration and Democrats allowed their border crisis to rage quite literally for years. But they did. Even the New York Times now admits that President Biden chose not to secure the border when given the chance. The Times reported this weekend, and I quote, "An examination of Mr. Biden's record found that he and his closest advisors repeatedly rebuffed recommendations that could have addressed the border crisis faster," end quote. Well, let me repeat that, Mr. President. They repeatedly rebuffed recommendations to ease the border crisis. Well, Mr. President, I'm glad that the New York Times is finally reporting what we've known for a long time, and that is that the Biden administration was completely uninterested in solving the border crisis. Fortunately, those days are over. When President Trump and Republicans took control this year, we moved to quickly restore order at the southern border. And the numbers speak for themselves. Customs and Border Protection reported a record low number of encounters in November. Fewer than 250 people per day are being apprehended. Compare that to the Biden administration, where law enforcement was catching more than 5,000 per day on average. And in November,
5,000 per day. I just wanted to play a little bit of that. That was a while ago. Well, when was this stated? Okay, this was 5 days ago. I wanted to find an older video though that talked about more of this. Hold on, let me see. Is this? Okay, so yeah, this is the attempt, I believe, one of the attempts that the Republicans tried to do 3 years ago, where they were trying to offer a pause act to immigration. And you will hear how fast they were shut down with trying to come up with this proposal. They were trying to deal with the fast track of illegals coming in, and the irresponsibility of Biden. They tried to submit this and were shut down. See how fast it got shut down, and then we'll explain what the Pause Act is, because now it's come up again. They're trying to offer this bill to help out with what's going on today.
From Pennsylvania for the purpose of a UC request.
Gentleman's recognized.
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to call up H.R. 471, the Pause Act, to protect all Americans from Biden's border crisis.
The chair understands that the gentleman from Maryland has not yielded for that purpose. Therefore, the unanimous consent request cannot be entertained. Gentleman from
Cannot be entertained. Sounds like Sheila Jackson Lee. I'm not sure if that was her or not, but it sounded like her. Definitely a Democrat. So anything that was attempted to happen during what Joe Biden was allowing to have happen on purpose, he was purposely leaving the border open. He was purposely trying to have illegals flood everywhere. Why? Because he wanted to maintain power and get votes, and basically disallow Black Americans from even having a voice by having so many illegals to come over and be able to take from us our vote. Destiny swapping attempted by Biden. Definitely attempted by Biden. And speaking of Biden, I believe that he had dementia while all this was going on. He had a lot of issues with memory and falling and forgetting stuff. And I just want to show y'all, just to remind y'all how bad off it was and why we should be very grateful for Trump trying to clean up the mess in which Biden was on. Let's give y'all a reminder.
I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Quote, we already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots.
Speaking of which, Biden is the biggest racist that I've seen that was in office. And yes, he used the word ER. He used the word ER. I believe that this man never gives a flying F about Black Americans. I believe that he wanted to make sure that we would never have an opportunity. I think that he wanted to make sure that our lives was a living hell. And he was bringing it to us with replacements. The illegals he purposely allowed to replace us. This man is the worst president that I can recall in my whole entire life with attempting to destiny swap us out of our destiny with illegals, with immigrants.
Turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Quote, we already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure. There is not a single solitary reason in the world why, as I said, we shouldn't be in a position that everybody, and that's my wife, Jill. Hey, Jill, I'm Jill's husband, actually. Barack and I think it's a right for people to have bad health care. Folks, we got a lot of work to do. I don't even need you to get me elected. I need you once I'm elected. What kind of country we're going to be? 4 more years of Georgia, going to find ourselves in a position where if Trump gets elected, we're going to be in a different. And I have a simple proposition here. I'm here to ask you for your help. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. You know, we have to come together. That's why I'm running. I'm running as a proud Democrat for the Senate.
He obviously had a lot of issues going on with himself. I think they determined he had some type of situation going on. Is it cancer or not? Do you guys recall what they said he had? But I believe that he has always had dementia. Let me find a couple of more clips to remind y'all, and then we'll get on with understanding that Biden had a deep-rooted issue while he was president. He did not do anything to benefit America. He overwhelmed us. He bombarded us with his craziness to have open border. But let's look at this video from Mr. Burgundy. And this is a funny video, but it just shows you how far off Joe Biden was. And he was in a really bad state.
I've frequently seen you in action in war zones in Bosnia, Baghdad, Fallujah, Kabul. I was going to bore the hell out of you, but
Too late.
Helmand, Kandahar, and other places. I remember one trip to Afghanistan as vice president.
Come here.
Yeah. Nice place up north.
I've been in and out of Iraq and Iran, but Iraq, not Iran, I misspoke. Iraq and Afghanistan. Over 30 times. I'm not supposed to take any questions, but go ahead.
Mr. President, on Afghanistan?
I'm not going to answer Afghanistan now. And there was no way we were ever going to unite Ukraine. Iraq, Afghanistan.
Nice work, Joe.
He couldn't remember a lot of stuff, y'all. A lot of stuff. He did auto pens that Trump is now trying to disallow the things that he signed off on because other people could have had control over that pen. I believe he was confused more times than not, but he had an agenda that he was dead set on, and that was to destiny swap with Black Americans versus illegals. That's what he was definitely on. So Trump, you know, he is going to be the fixer in all of this. That's what it is. That's what I believe. He is going to be the fixer in this. You know, speaking of which, there's another Republican, like I said, that is trying to offer up a solution with what is going on. His name is Chip, and he is offering a plan to pause immigration. It's called Pause act, and I am for what he is offering in this regard, because I believe that, again, we have way too many people here for 4 years, up into like almost 20 million, if not more. People that shouldn't be here are here. A lot of dangerous people are allowed to just flood in, and there's a lot of people that has to be taken out of here, and we cannot continue to allow others to come up in here.
Congressman Chip Roy. Congressman, that sounds like a great idea to me, but tell us about your legislation, why it's necessary to not just stop illegal immigration, but to pause all immigration.
Yeah, great to be on. Happy Saturday to you all. And, thanks for showing the absurdity of Benny Thompson and what he said in referring to the murder of one of our brave soldiers here in the nation's capital, a few blocks from the White House, as an accident. Another still fighting for his life. This is what we're dealing with. This is the radical Democratic Party that are more interested in playing politics and trying to focus on protecting those who want to endanger Americans than standing with an administration and the President and Secretary Noone who want to secure Americans. So you asked me about the Pause Act. The fact of the matter is we have 51.5 million people in this country who are foreign born. That's about 16% of the population. That's higher than at any other point in our history. So go back to 1920, where we had maybe a similar percentage. It was about 15%. And we had a whole bunch of people who had come here who, by the way, were more interested in assimilating, who were participating in schools that actually taught that America is great, and when we had no social welfare state. Today, we have millions of people who have come here who don't want to assimilate, who aren't in schools teaching that America is great, and they are on the social welfare state. We need to pause immigration. We need to fix our system. We need to end diversity visas, end chain migration, the kind of people that allow their cousins and uncles and aunts to come in. We need to stop the abuse of H-1B visas. We need to end birthright citizenship. We need to codify what the president has done. We need to stop having taxpayer funding of illegal alien children in our schools, as we do in Texas and everywhere else. And we've got to center our entire immigration system. So pause and let's fix it. I think we need that for the country. We did it in 1920. Our country was stronger for that for about 4 or 5 decades. And now for 50 years, we've been blowing the lid open and allowing people to come here, including radical Muslims, radical Islamists who want to undermine Western civilization and our way of life. It's time to pause it and fix it.
Congressman, first of all, I agree with you on that, but I want to talk to you about something that's probably more relevant today than it should be, considering the tragic events that happened just before our show.
Yeah.
So your fellow Texan, Senator Ted Cruz, has a piece of legislation that he's introduced to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. It was kind of weakened, I guess, on the House side, and he's ripped them for it. I know that the chairman of the Judiciary, Jim Jordan, backs this bill. I believe you do as well.
Yeah.
What are the politics we don't understand to designate literally the group that brought radical Islam to the world as a terrorist organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was weakened in the Senate. I think Senator Cruz was frustrated by that. I'm a co-sponsor of the House version of that bill. Senator Cruz is absolutely correct. President Trump has been doing a magnificent job pushing back on radical elements who want to come to the United States. I think Senator Cruz is absolutely correct to say that we need to designate them as terrorist organizations, just like, by the way, Governor Abbott just did in Texas, who also declared CARE a terrorist organization. And you know what? I introduced legislation to take away the tax status of CARE. We should pass Senator Cruz's bill. We should pass my bill to take the tax status away from CARE. We should pass my bill to vet people for Sharia law. We should pass the Pause Act to freeze immigration. All of this matters because you have a radical bunch of Islamists who want to remake America in a coordinated way. And you're seeing it unfold in Texas, where you've got Epic City in Plano, an Islamic center in Houston. You've got Dearborn, Michigan. You've got Minneapolis and what you're seeing happen there. You have Mamdani getting elected in New York. And all of these folks have ties to very radical organizations and elements, and we need to address it. And you start with the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the head of the snake.
And unfortunately, this is a real reality threat that we are facing, dealing with having so many people that have been allotted to come in. For 4 years, there's just so many different types of people here, and nobody really knows what their intentions are and what they're on, what they're plotting and scheming. So you have to come more aggressive than normal. People want to have our country think in terms of humanity more than security and safety for Americans and preservation of our way of life and our culture. You have to have a balance, but you do have to be kind of real bold to stop what has been allowed to happen for so long. So I think that this is the mindset you have to have, even though it is affecting many, many people. Because again, they are not from America, and we don't owe the whole entire world access to America. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. So, I know that it might be sounding really bad coming from me, who is a Black American, but I am American first. You have to keep that in mind. A lot of people try to tell me that I need to think in terms of my color and all that type of stuff, but they're not doing it. The same people are not doing what they're suggesting I do. They're trying to come in my place. These people want me to think in terms of Pan-African talk, but they're trying to come over here to compete and replace me. So I don't feel obligated to talk about unity and all this other nonsense that's not really going on around me. I'm seeing destiny swapping attempts going on around me. So I have to speak truth to what is really going on. And when we think about the birthright citizenship, again, that decision probably will be coming up in June, I hope, or maybe what month did you guys hear that he said it will come up into Supreme Court? It's either June or May or something like that. Oh, Zena says a lot of our people are in a group think mindset. Won't even try to think for themselves, just sit in echo chambers. It's sad, Zena. It's so sad. I'm so glad you're here. It's refreshing to hear you have this mindset like I do, because I kind of feel like a lot of people are totally gone. Let me go back up. I missed a couple of comments. Let me see, where was I at first? Thank you for being here. I think this is your first time being here. I appreciate seeing you here. You said our president offered us ethnic Americans the best deal, closed the border. He definitely did. Like, he really is doing us right with doing what he's doing, for sure. Definitely end birthright citizenship. And yes, they are definitely in a groupthink mindset. It's kind of like birds in a cage that's chirping all over the place, and they don't even know that they're bogged down in a cage and they're not able to fly. They're not able to be free. They're not able to express themselves better. They're not able to live life. They're just stuck in a cage because they are listening to others that's saying the same chorus of information over and over again. And they're up on panels talking the same talk while not understanding what's going on around them. It's very unfortunate that that is what's going on. But I want to remind you guys a little bit of what happened before with the migrants, just in case you guys think I'm very, very harsh. I want to show a little bit of what's going on. The undocumented were given free health care, y'all. And who was paying for the free health care? The Americans were paying for it. Should they be bogged down to pay for other people to come over here to enjoy free health care? No, I don't believe so.
So we are a week into the government shutdown because Republicans and Democrats can't agree on budget priorities. Republicans say Democrats are holding out for health care for illegal immigrants, and Democrats see this as a chance to undo some of the changes that Republicans made to health care this year. And so I guess the question is, really, can immigrants here illegally really get federal health benefits?
The short answer, no. Now, there were some classes of immigrants, legal immigrants, who could access Medicaid previously if they also met the earnings thresholds. You know, that could be people granted asylum, certain groups of Afghans and Ukrainians, Cubans and Haitians who came under really specific programs, and refugees. So this summer, Republicans changed the rules so that fewer classes of lawful immigrants could get access to Medicaid. They dramatically reduced that group. And Democrats now want to undo what the Republicans did. But this budget fight isn't just about Medicaid, right? It's also about the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, but people here illegally also weren't allowed to purchase insurance on the marketplace. So the federal government provides tax subsidies for certain people who are buying insurance through the marketplaces. And the marketplaces are for people who they're self-employed or they work in the gig economy. They don't receive health care through their employer. But again, people here illegally weren't allowed to purchase insurance on the marketplaces.
But what about states? Are some states providing help for people here illegally?
They are. The states get to decide what they do with their own money. And so some states have decided to help out people here in the country illegally. But no federal dollars are allowed to be used in that process. It seems like this is going to be a sticking point going forward as they try and negotiate the end of this shutdown. A lot of people are really passionate about the topic.
Yes, they are. But it just goes to show you that there were wiggle room for illegals to have in some cases, health care. And again, they are, spending money through, some cases they still are, having housing assistance. I remember there was a shelter that talked about a New York City's Roosevelt Hotel that was housing these migrants. Just to remind y'all just a little bit, this was a couple of years ago. Where we are now is not the way it was a couple of years ago, but just the ridiculousness of how this migrant crisis was. I'm just wanting y'all to remind y'all, because I guess out of sight, out of mind for some people, if it doesn't affect them personally, they have another viewpoint than they would have if they had it right in front of their face to really tangibly see what's going on or what happened, what was happening.
In our city shelters than there are homeless New Yorkers. Today, News 4's Melissa Russo got an exclusive look inside the first stop for new arrivals. We're talking about the Roosevelt Hotel Processing Center, Melissa.
Yeah, Natalie, walking into that large waiting room today at the Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown, it was hard not to be struck by the magnitude of this migration crisis, shouldered almost entirely by the New York City taxpayers, but also you're struck by the humanity.
So walking through these doors every day, more than 400 people per day.
It's one thing to hear the numbers. It's another to see today's newcomers all in one place. Little ones wiped out after walking for months to the border, then riding for days on a bus. Leonardo from Venezuela says his kids are happy to be here after crossing so many rivers and rocks in the jungle. And to already have a new pair of shoes.
My heart breaks a little bit, and I have these conflicting feelings.
Deputy Mayor Ann Williams-Isom says she's proud of the care the city is offering, but sad that it's unsustainable. Over the weekend, the city reached a critical tipping point for their already jam-packed shelters. The 49,700 homeless New Yorkers in shelter now outnumbered by 50,000 asylum seekers.
Right now, the city is taking care of close to 100,000 people in this system with no end in sight.
We've done so many vaccinations at the arrival center here that we've almost exhausted.
Outnumbered by 50,000 migrants. Can y'all understand how bad it had gotten and why Trump had to do what he's doing? I'm just trying to have us understand a little bit better.
The vaccine supplies that we've had.
The Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown offers medical and mental health screenings, rooms to more than 800 families with children, and a way station of sorts for new arrivals who have the potential to depart from New York.
And to help you to establish your goals and to see what we can do as a city to help you get there and to give you that critical period of time to enable us to get through to those friends or family members across the country and then to rebook you so that you don't have to enter our city system.
But many migrants don't have friends or family here, and the city is not saying how many of the roughly 400 who come in each day have been rerouted somewhere else.
Okay, so I just wanted to show y'all how bad off it was and why solutions had to come, and ASAP it had to come. Trump had no time to just pace around doing nothing and twiddling his thumbs. It's gotten to the point where he had to act, and people are trying to label him as being a racist, and I just don't think it's warranted. I really don't think it is warranted. Now, according to, what's her name? Kristi Noone, I believe her name is. Let me see. Kristi Noone, yeah. The Homeland Security and Defense, she is touting how the deportations, what they have achieved already, and what they're planning on achieving with continuing to do what they're doing. This is the latest on what she has to say. I want to showcase this. But again, this is assisting the stoppage of the destiny swap from Americans to the illegals to the migrants. That's what they were attempting to do, the Democrats, the destiny swap from Americans, particularly through Black Americans, for all the people of color to come and hijack our destiny through what Biden was allowing to have happen. And now we have solutions, and let's get to the solution of what is going on with the illegals.
For 4 years, the Biden administration pulled DHS and other vital parts of our national security away from our core missions. There's no clearer example than the disastrous open border policies that we saw perpetuated and the invasion which was facilitated by the administration. They brought crime and violence and unprecedented drugs to our communities. Terrorists flooded our country, and countless citizens of adversarial countries waltzed right over our border. Customs and Border Protection was prevented from doing its job, and worse, they were used many times to funnel aliens in as quick as possible. President Trump has put an end to that, delivering the most secure border in American history. In fact, we've just reached our 7th month of 0 illegal aliens released into our streets. Border crossings are down over 93% year over year. Meanwhile, we're removing illegal aliens who came in under the Biden administration. By the end of this year, 2.5 million illegal aliens will have left our country. That includes over 600,000 that were detained and deported, but 1.9 million virtually have left voluntarily through our communication efforts, through the efforts of facilitating plane tickets, and also $1,000 reimbursements for those who choose to go home voluntarily with the opportunity to come back the right way someday. We have seen an incredible amount of interest in fixing things that have been done wrong in the past. As a result, we have also deterred countless would-be border crossings from entering into our country. DHS, as you know, was founded after 9/11. It was founded to put all of the government agencies and components under one umbrella to fight terrorism and to protect the homeland. And that's exactly what we're doing under President Trump. From January to November of this year, ICE alone arrested and removed over 1,100 known or suspected terrorists that were on our terrorist watch list from January through November. And we're driving that number up every day. That is not counting the individuals that were arrested and encountered by other agencies or departments.
President Trump has designated many cartels and gangs, other criminal groups such as foreign terrorist organizations, and designating them under that allows us to go after those killers with more tools than we've ever had before. Through our Homeland Security task forces, which I co-lead alongside our Attorney General Pam Bondi, DHS is working with other departments as well as our international partners and organizations to crack down on cartels and terrorists and other transnational criminal organizations. Since late August, the Homeland Security Task Force has seized more than 461 metric tons of drugs and millions of dollars in assets. Last weekend, CBP under the Homeland Security Task Force stopped nearly 6,000 pounds of meth from coming into the country from San Diego at a port of entry. And that bust would not have happened without the robust security that we have at the border. The bottom line is that we're driving the cartels out of business, and we're ending an industry that profits off of the deaths of millions of Americans. Fentanyl traffic across our border at the southern border is down 56%, and that means that fewer families will have to live with the pain of losing.
Man, it is definitely a big job to turn all this mess around. And I salute, everybody in these positions to do what they're doing, because it takes a lot of bravery in the midst of being called racist, in the midst of, standing up for ourselves and whatnot. And I'm glad that they are not shying away because of being labeled a name, because, that's all that people are attempting to do, and saying that if Black Americans side with them, that we are racist. And no, we are Americans first. We don't want a destiny swap with immigrants. That's the best way to understand where I'm coming from. That's the best way to get it. So let me get to the comments and see if there's anything new. Zena says, unfortunately, I have sisters like yours. They are poor. Foreigners will affect them the most negatively. That's what I was trying to explain to her, and she just could not understand, because they're not right by her. So she is in complete denial. But if she understood the numbers and seeing how the money was being distributed and seeing how the jobs were given over to immigrants and opportunities and scholarships and housing and everything, they were getting granted everything by the hundreds of thousands of them. Just landing on our shores, they were given everything over Americans. Like I reported in my last video, there in Chicago, a Black neighborhood, well, primarily Black people, were told they had to leave their Chicago housing because of the ICE raids that, broke into their buildings and made it, in their mind, not allowed to be livable. And they told them they had to be gone. And they're currently homeless right now. There is no set-asides for them to be able to stay off the streets. They either have to have family and friends help them out, or they're just asked out. But these illegals, on the other hand, they didn't have the same problems that we're having right now. There aren't no monies. Well, they were just given the monies. And that's what I'm saying. Is like, there's no safety net for when we have tragedy versus when the illegals were coming over here in large number. They were the ones that were being blessed over us. And again, the best thing to do is to deal with that birthright citizenship. I thought that that was the best thing for Trump to be able to stop the bleeding, is to address the birthright citizenship. Because again, that is the primary way in which people were able to utilize our birthright and get ahead over us, get a handle over us, and keep us buried under them. And so someone said, Sheena said June. Okay, so yes, June will be the time where the Supreme Court is going to answer this. Sheena also says, I wonder if Trump met with Mark Carter from Chicago, he would not be doing this on his own. Who's Mark Carter? Yeah, I don't think you mentioned him before, did you? Who is Mark Carter? Can you tell me a little bit more? Zena says Pam Bondi needs to be replaced with an old white man with 20 plus years in law enforcement with the Border Patrol or ICE. You think so? Why you say that? You don't think she's doing a good job? I haven't heard anything negative about what she's done. Tell me more why you said that. Name calling when they can't use us. Exactly. That's all they got. But this is what they're trying to do. Have you noticed that every immigration group is targeting us online? Instead of them talking about the TPS ending for Haitians coming up right now, the Ethiopians, I believe, or the TPS has ended, and others are coming up to end the TPS. They should be talking about what they're going to do once they leave. They should be talking about how they're going to, do this Pan-African thing and go back to Africa and do something. But they're not. They're online attacking Black Americans. They're online trying to make us feel bad about their situations. They're online threatening us. They're online accusing us. They're doing too much, and none of it's working because we are delineated, and thank God we have delineated now 5 to 7 years, and we have the mindset that we need to not be involved with their situation because it's not our fight. It's not our fight. We're not fighting for people that's trying to replace us. That is the dumbest thing ever for anyone that is a Black American to do. That is the craziest thing. Okay, before I go to birthright citizenship, I'll save that video for a minute because I want to now go to Rand Paul. Rand Paul is now looking to ban welfare for all immigrants, and he's going to express why that is. And again, all this money, millions upon millions and billions of dollars. I mean, my God, that money could be used for so many other things for Americans and vets and all this. But let me show y'all. This comes, why is this phone keep doing that? This comes from Benny Johnson, and he's interviewing Rand Paul. So let's get to this real quick to talk about what's going on, what their solutions to the problems of what we got going on.
In car bombs in Dallas, that's just 2 off the dome, Afghan terrorists. They were part of at the Capitol building, but then there are real terrorists who are coming into our country and killing National Guardsmen and planning on doing car bombs in Dallas. That's just 2 off the dome, Afghan terrorists. They were part of kill squads in Afghanistan that were run by our own CIA, and then we decided they'd make great American citizens because of that. And they got welfare coming here, of course. Like, they'd be living on the streets if they didn't have this. And I know you've been talking about this. Like, how do we fix that problem of welfare to migrants who don't belong here, who are going to use it then to commit terrorism? United States.
Well, we admitted nearly 200,000. We've admitted hundreds of thousands of Somalis, and they don't come in through normal immigration. They come in through these special visas. They're considered to be refugees. And then it turns out refugees have been exempt from the rules on welfare. So if you're in here illegally, you're not supposed to get welfare. And even if you come in legally, you're prevented from getting welfare for a certain period of time. It's not supposed to be the beacon of welfare that brings you. It's supposed to be the beacon of freedom and work and capitalism that brings you. But letting so many come in, I opposed it at the time. This was led by McCain and others who say, oh, we owe it to these people. They were our translators. They speak English. It'll be dangerous for them. And I guess my analogy is, look, the British kept attacking us. In 1812, they came and burned our capital. That would be like our founding fathers. That'd be like Madison and Monroe, who were then leading the country, saying, oh, it's dangerous for us. The British are back. Can we go to France? No, stay and fight for your country. And so these people, if they were particularly Western oriented and pro-American, instead of coming to America, 200,000 people is a lot of people. That could be the brain drain of the country. It could be the patriot drain. Now, some of them turned out to be bad, but many of them were good people, but they still needed to stay in Afghanistan. They should have been the people to try to populate the next government. But with them all gone, Afghanistan quickly went to hell in a handbasket, and we couldn't vet them. Many of them had one name at best. We didn't know who they were. And you remember when they used to talk, and they would call it what, green on green violence, where we'd have an Afghan person who was embedded with us all of a sudden turn and start shooting our people. It's because you didn't know what to believe. They said, oh, we're sympathetic. We want to work with your military. Well, sometimes they were doing it just because it was a paycheck. And then if you gave them a paycheck, if the Taliban gave a paycheck, they'd work for the Taliban. And some of them were just simply plants. But we never should have admitted so many. Same way with the Somalis. I'm not against Somalis as a people, but let's admit them one at a time based on work and based on how many people were willing to admit that year. But let's not say we're going to take 1 million immigrants a year, which is about what we do. But then on top of that, we'll take another 100,000 Somalis or another 200,000 Afghans on top of our limits. No, let's decide what the limit is. And then let's base it on work and skills, and bring in, the great talent. That's what we've done. We are a great melting pot. And I'm not against legal and lawful immigration, but I am against sort of this mass introduction of people who never assimilate and end up bringing some people to the country actually aren't here for the right reasons and then end up committing violence.
That's what I'm talking about right there. 100,000 people came, Somalians, my goodness. And he said about 1 million a year coming to America. I mean, you do have to manage that flow of people. You do have to know what you're dealing with and why you got them here. You do have to weigh the pros and cons of how that's going to affect the American people. You can't just indefinitely allot these people to come over here in large number. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. This is why I am in support of Trump. He is disallowing the birthrights or the destiny swapping of Americans to the immigrants. He's stopping. He's solely stopping it with every little thing he does. Let me see what you got to say in the chat room. I appreciate everybody for being here. If you have not yet, please hit that like button. Stop being such a hater. Please support me in the truth. This is the Truth Channel. It's not always expressed the way you might want to hear it because it's not an easy topic to have, but it's just the times that we're in. And unfortunately, it takes a strong decision maker to fix all the things that's going on wrong. You said, do you have a link to that story of the residents of Chicago displaced? I'm going to try to find that video in a little bit. I did find an update where they were leaving and they were basically just asked out. You said Pam Bondi needs to prosecute those people that interfere with ICE. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff involving ICE being threatened. There was actually a Somalian recently, a younger Somalian. He had to be in his early 20s. He threatened online that he was going to pop the ICE if he sees them. And he ended up getting arrested. In fact, let me see where that video went. I have a lot of videos that I've been kind of like wanting to show. It's a lot of stuff to show, actually. Let me see if I can find it. But yeah, he threatened to pop the ICE agents and he got caught recently. Thank God. I think anyone that threatens the ICE agents should be thrown in jail. Like if we would do terroristic attack threats, we'd be thrown in jail. So why not them? I don't have no qualms about dealing with people that act like that, because again, some of those threats may come out and be the truth. So you got to take them all seriously. Man. I might not be able to find it. Oh, I can't find it just yet. Okay, I guess not. All right, let me read some more. Yeah, online threatening. Bus report that exactly. Anybody that threatens online, I would suggest that we report the video, report to Homeland Security, report to ICE, because again, it might be saving our lives out here. You said at one time immigrants had to support themselves or they couldn't get into America. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. Sheena says, Mark Carter is a Black American Chicagoan who fought against what the mayor was doing in Chicago with the illegals. Is that right? Let me see. I'll look him up real quick. Thank you for that. I've never heard of him before, though. Mark Carter. Chicago. There's a lot of stuff going on in Chicago, man. That mayor, Brandon Johnson, is really a hot mess. And he does not give a damn about how he is treating the Americans of America. Okay, he talks at the different council meetings. Okay, I see who it is. I wish I could find a little small clip. It has a lot more than a small clip on him right now. Okay. Anyways, you said, is Mark Carter related to Danny Carter of Chicago Flips Red? I think that they are a part of the Flip Red. But 100,000 of them came here. Yep. And YouTube is snatching my comments. Yeah, they always do that to me too. I can't stand it. Yes, 1 million a year get in. We are full now. No more. Exactly. Okay. And free trip. Yeah, they get a free trip. That's for sure. They definitely do that. I'm going to try to find this. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the birthright citizenship real quick while I look for this other video. This video is talking about, should illegal immigrant children get birthright citizenship? In my opinion, no. No. We're going to see what's going to happen. Maybe the judge will allow up until the ruling is done on that day to disallow moving forward. And everybody that is here now, he's going to allow it to stand to try to be as fair as possible, maybe. And maybe after the date in June, they will not allow anybody from that point forward. Maybe that might be the way in which they go, but something has to give.
The Supreme Court is going to take this up. I think this is one of those things that people who voted for the president didn't even realize could ever even happen. So the Supreme Court is preparing to hear Trump v. Washington, a case that could overturn birthright citizenship. The court's decision will determine not only the legal status of children born to undocumented or temporary status parents, but the constitutional boundaries of who belongs to the American political community. The president's executive order seeking to overturn birthright citizenship pointed out that the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend universally except to people who are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's the quote, and that's what is going to be discussed and determined by the Supreme Court. I want to start with you, Charles. I love hearing the president talk about this because he points out that the 14th Amendment was meant for the descendants of slaves. And I have this thing in my craw where it seems to me that Americans descended of slaves have been sold out by the left to every other minority.
Bingo. To every other minority group, the Democrats have sold us out. That's what I want my sister to understand. The Democrats have sold us out decades ago, about 50, 60 years ago. They have not been a benefit to us. They have been working to undermine us. They have been working to replace us and squeeze us out to become homeless and destituted and lost and confused with no option and no home. That has been the goal of Democrats. They're not trying to better our neighborhoods, our community. They're not trying to advocate for us collectively. They're not trying to get reparations for us, which would repair what has happened a long time ago and give us wealth, opportunities to create jobs, to get permanent housing, to get on our feet the way we would have been if we were never touched by the government with destroying different communities over time, placing drugs in our neighborhoods and other things that they purposely allowed to have happen, which has really collectively destroyed a lot of our community and possibilities and potential. They are the primary reason we are struggling, but the birthright citizenship was never, ever meant for immigrants. And this is what I mean about destiny swapping. To take away our heritage, our birthright that we earned, and to just give it to people, random people that just are invited to come in, is destiny swapping. So people that are holding on to the Democrats and believing that to be there for all people means that they're also including you, they're not including you, Black American. They're using you as the sacrificial lamb to be put up on display as the sacrifice. They're using you and all that you went through to benefit others.
Immigrants who are Black, who come here with a lot of money.
I want you to hear it again.
Points out that the 14th Amendment was meant for the descendants of slaves. And I have this thing in my craw where it seems to me that Americans descended of slaves have been sold out by the left to every other minority community, by the way, including immigrants who are Black, who come here with a lot of money and then take up affirmative action positions that should go to the ADOS community, Americans descended from slaves. And I love hearing the president stand up for Black Americans and say, you have been sold out and taken advantage of by the left. That seems to me to be sort of the crux of why this issue matters so much. What say you, Charles?
Well, I'm laughing because I wish people knew how often you and I have a conversation about this. This is like one of your things. But he's right about that. And I don't think, what are the things that I sit back and watch, whether I agree with these issues or not, is I like the fact that the courts are taking on all these, that Trump is pushing to make us have clear distinctions on all these kind of gray areas, right? To kind of tighten up things.
And with that distinction, it's enabling our delineation to be more real. It's making it be more realized. It is allowing us to be more vocal. It's allowing us to speak up as one voice, as a collective of people here in America, because the way that the Democrats were having it was leaving us just bastardized, leaving that vague term of African American to be used by other people that come over here to hijack and scam the system and basically destiny swap us out of our position. And it kind of realigns who is the real American. It aligns who is the ones that are deserving of the birthright. It is bringing back to life what was understood to be known now, because the way that they have been manipulating the birthright of 14th Amendment was to use it as a loophole to claim that they were a part of the jurisdiction. And how can you be a part of a jurisdiction if you just appeared from nowhere, from another place? How are you a part of that jurisdiction? You're not working. You're not, you weren't born there. You don't have residency there. You're not a part of the system. You're not a part of the fabric of the history. How are you able to just go over all of that and use the birthright citizenship to advance yourself? He's resetting what was manipulated.
We're loose. And the courts, I don't know what the courts are going to decide. We can all speculate on that. But I think it's pretty clear if you take emotion and politics out of it, that what the intent was. No one would intend, forget, you may be right, but it's not even about what the original intent being about descendants of slaves trying to make them part of the country, though it's true. The issue is, should someone come here illegally, sometimes specifically to have kids to become American citizens because they're gaming the system, right? And just come here pregnant, let's say, and drop a baby and have that. How are they under the jurisdiction of this country, right? They are diverting the laws in order to get here and hiding, right? Remember, they're living in the shadows. So that's an even completely separate and what seems to me clear issue. It's not even, overturning birthright citizenship. It's clarifying what it means.
Charles, I think that's such an important point. I'd like to tell a tangible story about that, because America so often gets abused for our very good intentions. And I think asylum, for example, is a great example of that, right? That we have a welcoming heart for people who are truly fleeing for their lives, but then it's systemically abused by corrupt NGOs and the Biden administration to get tens of millions of people into the United States who clearly are not legitimate asylees. But similarly here on birthright citizenship, I filmed a lot of documentaries on the U.S. border. When I was filming in Rio Grande City in Texas, South Texas, a place that Donald Trump won, by the way, massive reversal from Democrat to Republican. That was the main reason I was there. But while I was there, I saw at the end of the school day, hundreds and hundreds of school children heading to buses and then heading south of the border, crossing into Mexico over the Rio Grande. I said, what's going on there? Is it a field trip? And no, they are Mexican children. Now, they're American citizens because all of them, quite purposefully, their mothers took them to the United States literally for the birth, okay? Start hanging out right near the border when you know you're getting close, cross the border, have the baby, American citizenship, per these ridiculous precedents that we've set in this country. Those children live in Mexico. Their families are Mexican. They pay taxes in Mexico. They send their children across the border every single day,
for school in American public schools in Rio Grande City in Texas, and the schools must take them. Now, I'm not blaming the children, of course. It's not their fault. The point is, we have constructed a system that is just made for this kind of abuse, and it's on a massive scale all across the United States. This makes sense for no one. This is not remotely what was intended by the 14th Amendment. I hope the court does the right thing here.
All right, guys, if you're looking for that amazing snack,
As do I. You know, the big conversation as of late has been Somalians with the scam network that they have in Minnesota. I heard they have scams that's been realized in Ohio and maybe Maine. And I found a video that kind of broke down what Somalia did so-called for America in 5 minutes. It is from Michael Knowles, but you'll see how easy it was to hustle the American system with the way that it was laid out before and why it has to be reversed. It has to be reversed.
Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal recently claimed that immigrants from Somalia built this country, the United States of America.
Immigrants have built this country from all over the world.
And that's where the lie in the destiny swap begins. How could Somalians build America if they just got here about 30 years ago? What kind of stupidity does that make? They have not been here at the beginning of America. They weren't in the Civil War. They weren't slaving in the fields. They weren't a part of the fabric of bringing the economy here. We were. All immigrants I have found are dead bent on trying to change the narrative of what the history was here in America, and they're trying to do it at our expense. They're doing it at the expense of Black Americans and trying to just play dumb like they don't really understand what this whole entire America was built off of, the backs of our ancestors. But yet they'll just come in, claim whatever narrative that they want to run, which is a scam and a lie and an attempt to destiny swap. Listen to this again, this ridiculousness. The Somalians build America is lies.
Democrat Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal recently claimed that immigrants from Somalia built this country, the United States of America.
Immigrants have built this country from all over the world, Somalia, India, wherever they're from.
It's a strange claim, since the Americas were discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1492, settled by the Virginia Company at Jamestown in 1607, then settled in New England by the Pilgrims on the Mayflower in 1620, founded as a cohesive nation through the Revolutionary War between 1775 and 1783, and governed by the Constitution, which was ratified in 1788, all of which occurred between 132 and 428 years before the first documented Somali arrived in the 1920s. When Somalis did finally make it over here in the 20s, it was not by the millions, or by the thousands, or even by the hundreds. It was by the dozens. Handfuls of sailors, so minuscule that they barely even appear in the historical record. In the 1950s, as Somali territories moved toward independence after decades of colonial government by the British, the French, and the Italians, some Somali students attended American universities. Again, we're talking about a vanishingly small number of Somalis visiting and studying in the United States. Even after the Hart-Celler Act of 1965 radically transformed America's immigration system, inaugurating the policy of mass migration that persists to this day, Somalis still barely came to the United States. In 1969, the Somali Republic collapsed after only 9 years of existence, giving way to the Marxist-Leninist Somali Democratic Republic. Even then, only a minuscule number of Somalis made it to America. By 1990, 1 year before the collapse of the Somali Democratic Republic, fewer than 2,100 Somali natives lived in the United States. That all changed in 1991.
So I stand corrected. They came a little bit in the 20s. They did go to school. Some of them, very few, they went in school and whatnot, but they did not help build America. They did not fight in wars. They did not do anything that is traditionally known about what has happened and transpired here in America. He did not bring up the technical talk about slavery and all that other type of talk. He just left it to, kind of focus in on the Somalians. Coming over to go to school is really not building anything. They individually got educated, but what does that have to do with building America, though? And so, you have a few numbers here and there, but not building America, not at all.
And civil war and state failure sent hundreds of thousands of Somalis fleeing. The U.S. had adopted a new policy, welcoming political refugees in 1980, over 2 centuries after the founding of the American nation and 360 years after the landing of the Mayflower in Plymouth Harbor, for those who are keeping count. So, by 2011, nearly 100,000 Somalis had been welcomed into the United States as refugees. What exactly did they build in America? They didn't sign the Declaration of Independence. They didn't build our military, or found any universities, or make any of the discoveries or invent any of the inventions that made America a global superpower and gave us the American century. They weren't even here when all that stuff happened. But that doesn't mean they haven't built anything. When Somalis began arriving in the 1990s and 2000s, they built mosques and Islamic centers and Quranic schools. They opened halal shops and grocery stores that sent remittances back to Somalia. Beyond these legal, or at least semi-legal businesses, a major source of remittances to Somalia has been the American taxpayer. Because the most impressive institution that Somalis have built in the United States is the kind of community group that perpetrated one of the most expansive cases of welfare fraud in American history. Thanks to reporting by Ryan Thorpe and Christopher Rufo at City Journal, we now know that Somali criminals stole billions of dollars in taxpayer dollars during just a single gubernatorial administration in Minnesota alone. Much of that money went straight back to Somalia, with at least some of it ending up in the hands of the Islamic terrorist group Al-Shabaab. According to a 2024 report, remittances from abroad, and especially from the United States, today account for between 30 and 50% of the Somalian economy. In other words, Somalis didn't build America. They've never really contributed anything to America. But they have managed to take, steal, and transfer enough wealth from America that, inasmuch as Somalia exists today as a nation at all, America built Somalia.
All right. So that was a nice little take of his. But all the bragging that Somalians do online is just incredible, and how they claim that they were promised Minnesota 3,000 years ago. They have made up in their mind that they are like chosen people of the Bible. And unfortunately for them, Americans are not buying that bullshit. We're not buying that bullshit. You can pack it up and forget about it. But here is a reminder of why something has to give about these Somalians. There was a Somalian student recently threatening to pop ICE agents, and he actually went online to talk this talk, and he got caught up recently with threatening the ICE. But this just shows you how entitled they are. This just shows you how delusional they are. And, basically they just need to be put in their place and reminded that they are not as American as they would like us to believe, because, again, they never intermingled with us as Americans. They have stayed secluded They are Somalians. They don't believe, in my mind, they don't believe they're Americans. They just like to use it as a cover. I don't believe that they think that they're Americans because they don't think that they are. They know that they're not American. You know what I mean? They still have allegiance to a home country there in Somalia. I don't think, in my mind, you can be a true American if you have another country that you have allegiance to. How can you be a true American like that?
I actually heard you guys pulled up to Owatonna, the big O, and you were pulled up when I was not there? Oh, so puss ass, boy. You gonna get popped next time I see you at. Bring the whole cavalry. I made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment. I don't expect to be forgiven. I'm just here to apologize.
Targeting Somali people means that due process will be violated. Mistakes will be made. And let's be clear, it means that American citizens will be detained for no other reason than the fact that they look like they are Somali. That is not now and will never be a legitimate reason. For decades, the Somali community has added greatly to our city. The economic fabric.
And they've taken out a lot too. And the thing about the scam, you know, they want to say that it was done by a few of them, but their mindset is to take care of their particular clan of people. So that money that they're getting away with is definitely going to be spread throughout their clan. So it's not like they won't share in the festivities of having that money if it's not taken back from them from stealing it. I'm pretty sure that Trump's going to try to find a way to block and bar them from being able to keep that money. I want to now go to what he had to say recently in regards to what's her name? Elhan Omar. He had a recent question about her, and I want to bring that video back up. But I'm glad that they're on top of taking down the threats of people that are going against ICE for sure. Let me see, where is this at? Please hit the like button while I look for this video of Trump. Please share the video, subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And here is the video. He got questioned about Omar again, Elhan Omar. And this is the latest that he had to say about it. So let's look at this.
Comes out of a country where they have no government, they have no military, they have no police, they got no nothing. They don't have a country, and they run around killing each other. And then she comes over here. She tells the United States of America how it should be run. We don't want to hear from her. I don't want to hear from her. I don't want to speak for Emmer, but I don't think Emmer particularly wants to hear. But don't say it because I don't want to get you in trouble, okay? Just be nice and easy, all right? I'll do it for you, but that part I'll do. But I just want to say that, President, there's nothing worse than a person that comes in and does nothing but bitch and comes from a place where she shouldn't be telling us what to do. She shouldn't be telling us, and everybody agrees with me. And what's happening in Minnesota with Somalia, where billions of dollars is being stolen, right, like candy from a baby, we're not going to let that go on. And it's too great a state to have that happening. And guys like Tom Emmer and others, Pete Stauber, guys like them, they're going to stop it, and they're going to be given the authority to stop it, because this country's not going to put up with it anymore.
You talked about land strikes happening soon. Is there anything at this point that can prevent that, and is the objective, if you make that decision?
Well, I don't want to say that, but it's not only land strikes on Venezuela, it's land strikes on horrible people that are bringing in drugs and killing our people. You know, if we were in a war and we lost 300,000 people in a year, because that's what the real number is. It's not 100. You know, you keep hearing 100. And it's a lot worse than that, because the families are devastated when they lose their child. If we were in a war and we lost 200,000 or 300,000, but I think it's more than 300,000, and that's a war that's like a war that would be unparalleled. Nobody's ever seen anything like that, and that's what's happening. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in Venezuela. It's people that are bringing in drugs to our country are targets.
Mr. President, at the end of this year, those extended Obamacare subsidies expire. What's your message to those 24 million Americans who will see their insurance premiums go up?
Don't make it sound so bad, because, you know, obviously you're a sycophant for Democrats. You're obviously a provider of bad news for Republicans. Let me just say something. The Republicans, I think I can speak for Tom and most of the people. I think what most Republicans want to see is what I want to see. And I leave it to them, and hopefully they're going to put great legislation on this desk right here. We want to see all of the money that's been squandered and given to insurance company, because Obamacare is horrible health insurance. It's far too expensive, and it always has been. But what it really is a way of making insurance companies rich. We want the money not to be paid at all to insurance companies. You know, insurance companies have gone up 1,700% over a short, meaning the stock, 1,700% over a short period of time. And they've taken in hundreds of billions and even trillions of dollars. And we want the money to go to the people. They'll go in the form of a insurance account, healthcare account, or any other form that we can create. We have a lot of different forms. We want to give the money to the people and let the people buy their own great healthcare. And they'll save a lot of money, and it'll be great. Now, the problem we have is that the Republicans are not at all controlled by the insurance companies. But you know who is? The Democrats. The Democrats have received hundreds of millions of dollars. They're totally controlled by the insurance companies, so we might not get too many of their votes. But I actually think we'd get some Democrat votes. So I don't know how you feel about it, Tom, but everybody wants to see this happen. Everybody. I put it out, and all of a sudden, we've taken over in a positive way. The Republicans have taken over healthcare in a positive way. I want to see the billions of dollars go to the people, not to the insurance companies. And I want to see the people go out and buy themselves great healthcare. Much better healthcare at very little cost. That's what I want. And it's so simple.
A follow-up on that, many congressional Republicans have said they won't vote for an Obamacare extension deal if it includes funding for abortion. Would you assure those Republicans that you will not propose?
Well, we're going to look into it. We're going to look into a lot of things. That's one of many factors. But what we do want to see is we want to see the money go to the people, not to the insurance companies. No, wait. You have to be nice and easy. Nice and easy. She's very aggressive. Okay, please.
Thanks, Mr. President. Can you tell us how this free economic zone would work in the Donbass and land that the Russians took by force?
Well, I don't want to do that now. It's a very complex situation, but it...
I was trying to find the part where he said about her wedding, or her marrying her brother, because that has been really talked about. A lot of people are bringing out.
Look,
hold on. Hold on. Let me see. Oh man. Okay, I think I found the clip. But I just want to reiterate the fact that, it's open season by many of these immigrants, not all, because some do come here legally, I must say, and they don't pose a threat as to how, well, as many that are threats. There are far more that are a threat to us, though, unfortunately, than there are coming here legally with good intentions, I would say. But she knew, Ilhan Omar knew that we were lax, that we were not paying attention, and that we were easy to manipulate and take advantage of. And she never saw this to come to light as far as all the things that she allegedly did as far as marrying her brother. And this is the clip where Trump does mention this about what she did. And I hope that he will make an example out of her. Make an example, send her packing, figure out if she's a part of all these scams and take that money. Somehow she's 30 million in the bank, but she's a congresswoman that only makes less than 200,000 a year. So I think that that has to be investigated as well to see if there's any ties with all the money that she has somehow gotten. But listen to what Trump had to say.
Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, you know, it just happened. And she shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country.
The mayor of Minneapolis.
That's what I say. That, because again, she's destiny swapping with Americans. How you get to be a fraud and a congresswoman and not get called out and dealt with. He has to deal with her. He cannot allow her to stay because that's going to make it easier for other people to think that they can pull it too. So this is what I wanted to showcase. The destiny swap is real. Of course, we have nutty bars such as Umar Johnson, who is claiming us delineating as somehow against all other Black people. It's not being against them. It's about standing up for yourself. So I'm going to end this video with this last video about Umar Johnson. I don't want to have an overly long video because there's not a lot of people here anyways. But again, there is a delineation movement going on. I describe myself as being Indigenous American Black. Some others like to call themselves FBA or Foundational Black American and other names that are out there as well that they want to call themselves. They don't want to be associated, though, with the term of African American. And I hope that Trump gets wind of the fact that we want to be able to do away with that term so that other immigrants no longer can hustle the system by using it. Call us Indigenous American Blacks. Let them have their name of origin and separate us from being glumped together like a block of black. It's just not a benefit. It is destiny swapping when we do it. So let's look at Umar Johnson. He talked about the so-called FBA movement, which is not a movement, but it is delineating from other melanated people that do come here because, again, we are representing ourselves. We're not trying to represent all Black melanated people around the world. It is not our plight to do so. It takes away from us representing ourselves and it allows them to destiny swap us out of our position here in America. But the Pan-Africans' goal is to sacrifice Black Americans for the upliftment of other melanated people over us. That's what they want to have happen. That's why they preach Pan-Africanism all the time. But if they were true about Pan-Africanism, wouldn't they suggest to the Haitians and Jamaicans and the Africans that are being told to leave America to maybe go back to their continent of Africa and do something over there that's involving Pan-Africanism? They don't talk about that. TPS is soon approaching for Haitians to be over, I believe, February the 2nd or 3rd. We have Ethiopians. They got their TPS ended yesterday, I believe. They have the Venezuelans, the Cubans, they have stopped with the TPS already. And other people are being told that they have to go back home. And if they can't go back home, especially the Haitians, I can understand why they wouldn't want to go back home. Why aren't any of these Pan-Africans offering a solution for them to go to Africa? Why is Pan-African solely bashing Indigenous American Blacks about us going? We're not the ones that's in jeopardy of being deported. They are. Wouldn't it make sense for Umar Johnson and other Pan-Africans to suggest to Haitians and others to go to Africa? Why hasn't that been a speech or talk on social media about it? Because we are the people that they're trying to destiny swap with. That's why the conversation is not lending to them to go, because we are the ones that are being attempted to be destiny swapped with.
Light District. He wants to know why the foundational Black Americans don't like Caribbean Blacks. Honestly, you should probably ask their quote-unquote leader. I think their quote-unquote leader would have a better answer for you. But as the voice of Garveyism in the 21st century, and as the voice for revolutionary Pan-Africanism in the 21st century, I do not support that organization or its rhetoric, nor do I support the other organizations that are similar somewhat in scope, function, and philosophy. I believe in the total and unconditional unification and liberation of all African people in the world. I do not put conditions on my loyalty.
This is the same man, mind you, who has 2 young daughters that he does not even go see. He does not even save from being homeless. One of his daughters are online who begs for help and needed housing. But he's talking about African people, but he can't even help his own seed out. This is the man that is full of shit. He is about escapism. He's about hustling single women who look at him as being a potential person to date. And he manipulates women based off of their silliness and their stupidity to listen to a man that has nothing to show for with all the lies he spews every day. A school that he was supposed to open 10 years ago, a school for boys, he was supposed to open 10 years ago. And he still collects donations and people still listen to his rhetoric. He has a citizenship from Ghana. And I pray that they do away with dual citizenships so that his bitch ass can go live in Ghana. But I bet you before he would do that, he would renounce his citizenship because he's full of shit. He wants to stay in America, but preach and wag his fingers and get donations from simple-minded fools that listen to him.
I do not put conditions on my unity. I personally believe that all these organizations were thought up by hustlers and opportunists. I think some of them are funded by the power structure to divide Africans against Africans. I do not see anything good coming out of these organizations. None of them have a nationalist bone in their body. Most of them just want to beg the white man for reparations while they hate on African immigrants, but do.
And you want to beg us for money. You want to tell us the lies of the school was opening this date and that date and it never opens. You continually up in our faces talking about donations. But he will never call himself out because it's too lucrative for him to scheme and scam.
nothing about the real groups that are stealing and robbing from black people. They don't say.
But they all are. They all are. Every immigrant group that comes over here is robbing from Americans. That's the point of the video. In particular, they latch on to Black Americans' plight and civil rights, and they use our history to forge forward over us. We're talking about all immigrant groups. It doesn't matter if they're melanated or not. I do not see color when it comes to the destiny swap of the Democrat attempt against us. But Umar Johnson is stupid because he's sitting pretty because he sold us out a long time ago, and that's all he cares about. All he has on his mouth is Africa, 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 but he has nothing to show for. He's not a real man. He's definitely not a leader. He's definitely not respected. I definitely don't call him a doctor. I don't like this guy at all. But this is just a prime example of why some of us are stupefied and confused on what we're supposed to think like because we're listening to a bitch-made nigga like this.
Nothing about the rainbow community. They don't say nothing about the white Latino community. They don't say anything at all about the feminists, but yet they want to demonize and criminalize African immigrants. I do not support it. All African immigrants are my family. They are my brothers and sisters. I have no...
Even though the African Union, again, decided upon themselves to include Black Americans in their ploy, talking about our money to be applied to Africa without even bothering to ask us if that's what we would want. They've included us in a so-called sixth region, talking about reparations, talking about taking leadership over the talks of reparations when they were the primary people that were involved in the slave trade of selling so-called African people to America. And of course, anyone with half a brain would realize that Black Americans would not want Africans to be over anything involving money because they are swindlers, scammers. Why would we want them over anything pertaining to us? But did they ask us? No. Why not? Because they are scammers. They're liars. They're destiny swappers. That's why. I hope that Trump gets wind of Pan-Africans at the African Union doing what they're doing and dissolve away the sixth region because we didn't ask for it. We didn't ask for it. You didn't ask for my permission to include the African so-called American term for the African Union, claiming our money towards Africa. No, leave us alone. We do not want to destiny swap with you. We don't want no association with you. You guys are not coming with the right mindset. You're scamming. You're a liar. This is why I can't deal with Pan-Africans because they are not fully up to par as far as what these people are capable of doing and wanting to do. If he does know, he doesn't care because he sold us out. But nonetheless, this destiny swap thing is real. And Trump, in my opinion, is the only person that is in the way of them succeeding. Because Kamala Harris was trying to talk about the Pan-African talk when she was a vice president. All these people are talking as if we're Pan-Africans, and we're not. They're trying to just force us, impose that onto us to destiny swap with us and call that shit unity. That's why I'm not for anything pertaining to Democrats. And I wish my sister and everybody listening, if you are an American, stop believing the lie of the Democrat because they're socialists and they're only here to dissolve America away and to strip us of our birthright if it continues on the way that it was. But praise God, in some weird way, Trump is in the way of what they were attempting to do. And I pray that he gets, to do what he's trying to do in the next 3 years, starting with the birthright citizenship and everything else that he's doing against all these illegals that are over here, because they're not meaning to bless us as Americans. They're here to replace and diminish us as Americans. That is the truth. If you guys don't get it, I can't help you. But I pray that people will continue to listen to what I showcase, in hopes that people will understand why we have to not support Democrats no more. Please like and share the video. I would greatly appreciate it. Let me see if you said anything else before I go. And I'll see. Hold on. Let me go back up. They are saying Minnesota was promised to them, and Nigerians are saying Houston and Atlanta was promised to them. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Immigrants are here to take. They're here to replace. They're here to change the narrative. They're here to change the history. They're here to conquer. They're here to corrupt. They're not here to make better. They're not here to support. They're here to take advantage and take over. That's why they are here. I'm not supposed to side with people that's wanting to take over America and you have nothing to do with America. No, I'm not going to be in support of that. I don't give a damn if you happen to have black skin or brown skin, whatever. I'm not on the side of that. They should go home with that energy and rebuild their own damn country, is what I say. Go take that energy back home. Let me see, where was I? Did I read that? Okay. Yeah, they're snatching a lot of comments. Hold on. Rich or poor should not get our set-asides. None of them should. You're right about that. I just hope that Trump will make it permanent, somehow put it in the Constitution. Once the birthright citizenship has been realized, and put, boundaries and limits on what people are able to do as immigrants and migrants, so that they can never, ever steal from our destiny and steal from our heritage and our birthright. They have got to be stopped. They do. Let me go back up. Did I read that? Okay. "99% of the black people that come are poor," Zena says. She's trying to bait us with saying they are rich. Oh yeah, they think that we're stupid. Rich or poor should not get our set-asides. No, they shouldn't. Fleeing for their lives, they need to stay and defend their homelands like our ancestors did. That's what I'm saying. Like, they want bragging rights, immigrants, whoever you are. If you want bragging rights, like we brag here as Black Americans about what our ancestors have done, you got to go through the fire. You got to sacrifice to get the bragging rights. You have to sacrifice to get the bragging rights. You cannot come over to a country that's already been built and already been sacrificed and live off the vapors of what we established here and call that shit fair. That's called destiny swapping. That's called siphoning resources and everything attached to another group of people that you have nothing to do with. It's not fair. It is thievery. It's a hostile takeover. And that's not going to be looked upon as being good. And that's why I'm not in support of immigration, because of the way that it has been allowed to have happened. And that's why I'm for what Trump is doing. Why they didn't do something for their own country, Zena says. That's what I'm saying. They want to wag their fingers and tell us how bad off we are, and we're bad off because you're here. We're getting bad off because you're here in large amounts of numbers. You're flooding the zone. You're flooding the resources. You're flooding programs. You're flooding the jobs. You're taking opportunities from us, and you are stealing and destiny swapping from us. That's why we are doing worse, because of you being here. That's the truth. They didn't build their homeland, so how did they build America? I know that's right. You go to Somalia, it's like a craziness over there. It's wild. I could not imagine living over there in Africa anywhere. My God, I'm so blessed. Sheena says they are saying Minnesota was promised to them, and okay, I read that already. Yeah, again, they're delusional and they're liars, and they're trying to destiny swap with us, and they're just telling on themselves at this point. And this is why we got to have the attitude that I have. They don't assimilate. No, they don't. Dual citizenship should not be allowed. I pray, Sheena, that they do away with dual citizenship, because then you're going to really see who's loyal to America. You're really going to figure it all out. Zena says the OMB wanted to give us the title American. That would make us the only Americans, everyone else American citizens. We better take it. That's what we need to do. In all honesty, that's what we need to do. But you know who's going to fight us from doing that? Pan-Africans. They don't want us to be connected to America. They are our arch enemies. It's what I've been trying to tell people. Pan-Africans are our enemies. If they had it their way, we wouldn't even have a birthright. They are upset right now that we're not putting our neck out there protesting and being thrown in jail and being hosed down and being shot and arrested and all these things for them, for the immigrants. They're so pissed that we have an option not to do it, because they think that we supposed to put our bodies on the line and sacrifice ourselves for other groups of people over us. They are dumb enough to even think this through. Like, get the hell out of here. I don't see you guys sacrificing anything in your homeland. Don't expect me to sacrifice for you over here. Yes, it's definitely time to go. Zena says California has given us the title American freedmen. That's what we definitely got to hold on to, that word freedmen, because no immigrant can call themselves a freedman. Anything that gives us a distinction away from immigrants, we have got to hold on to that word. Freedmen is our word. Zena says African continent is as bad, if not worse, than Haiti and Jamaica. In some places, it definitely is. They got a lot of stuff to do over there. But again, with having the brain drain and having so many people go all over the world versus stay in their home country, how can they correct what's going on wrong? At some point, they got to deal with what they got to deal with. They cannot keep relying on other countries to save them from their situations in their home country. Sheena says, I think a ritual was performed on Omar. I think he's definitely involved in juju and all the other witchcraft type of things. I believe, honestly, that also a lot of people in Pan-Africanism use rituals on us. I think that they continually wish us to fail and wish us to stay dumbed down and lost and confused. That's what I think that they are constantly wishing for, us to stay confused. Zena says, I've seen his older daughter online. He called her a strugger streamer. I know, no respect at all, but yet he wants to big up Africans. He big up Africans over his own damn daughter. Just think about that. His actual bloodline, he disrespects. And he puts on a pedestal strangers he has no aware of or understanding about, but he wants to worship them over his daughter. That's how ridiculous these men have become as Pan-Africans. You said the same can be said about Pan-Africanism. Definitely, Sheena. Pan-Africanism, I was on that back in 2018. People were so upset when I started talking against Pan-Africanism. Now look at us. We see all the lies they've been telling, all the distractions that they've been bringing. And they're upset now that Trump is in the way, that they cannot work their magic on us like they have been able to do. They can't lie and say you got to get another citizenship. They can't lie and say, you know, it's better over here in Africa because everybody's fighting to stay here. All the lies that they tell has been unraveling, and they have nowhere to go but to just accuse us of stuff and bash us and call us names. That's all they got left. African leaders are bragging or begging for reparations. Yeah, they want to take our reparations from us, though, Sheena. That's what they want to do. They don't want us to have the money so that we can take care of ourselves. They want the money so that we can be under their thumb and be subservient to them. That's what they desire, for us to be under their thumb, and that they would be over us as an authority. And that's not what I want. I want to maintain my agency and my own sovereignty, a person in mind and spirit. I do not want any association with any government of Africa trying to dictate anything to me. Dictate to your people who are fleeing about what they need to do in your homeland. That's what you need to be dictating, African leaders, Pan-Africans. That's what y'all need to go do. Leave Black Americans alone. We're not fucking with y'all like that. Sheena says Trump and his administration won't work with them. I know that's right. Zena says FBA fought with the OMB. They wanted us to be reclassified as FBA. You know, our seniors aren't going to appreciate that. Yeah, because you have to, man, that's why I fought FBA, because they have such a big platform. We could have been popping off different panels of people to have discussions on understanding to the collective why it's necessary to have the name change moving forward. But they never did it. Tariq never did it. Others are not doing it. They're kind of like comfortable online. They're not taking it to the streets. They're not taking it to the Congress. They're not writing President Trump. They're not doing other things that could bring awareness about what we're doing and why. So it just seems a little odd to me that we're not further than what we need to be. But I'm glad that Trump is taking the initiation to do what he's doing, because when it's all said and done, he's going to be the one to fix a lot of this stuff that's going on wrong. Yes, he looks possessed. He definitely does. I can't stand Umar. You said we are breaking free from their stronghold. They are losing their mind. Exactly, Sheena. To think about how delusional people were talking back in 2018, at least some of us are getting our mind right now. A lot of us are now seeing the truth and speaking up. They have gotten enough money. Any updates on Ericana? Well, the latest with Ericana is that she actually did have a small group of people that claimed that they wanted to become citizens to Burkina Faso. There was supposed to have been a little bit over 1,200 that believed in her lie of citizenship in Burkina Faso. It was founded out that it was never going to be citizenship. It was only going to be residency. But she made over $1 million lying about citizenship. And because of that scandal, only 700 went to Burkina Faso about a month ago. And they had to pay for a plane ticket, of course, and hotel stays and all of that. And she's claiming that, you know, it's victorious that they are associated now with Burkina Faso and all that. But if you talk to 40 million of us, we don't give a fuck about Burkina Faso like that. I don't wish nothing bad to happen to anyone in Burkina Faso. I mean, I know that Captain Touré is claiming to get rid of the French and all these types of things. He's working with the Russians to do stuff. And I wish that he has success and stays alive. But do I want anything to do with Burkina Faso? No, I'm not from there. I'm not going there. I don't speak French. I don't want African customs and traditions. That's not my my culture. So I don't care like that. But yeah, Ericana is still running around pretending that she's the voice of us. She's running around with schemes of this and that and the other, and all that stuff is falling to the wayside. And I'm sure she'll be doing another speech talking about, you know, us becoming one, pretending to be African and all that type of jazz that she continually does. That's not picking up steam. It's not picking up steam because we're not listening. And praise God that a lot more of us are not listening to that person. Zena says, good, let them stay online. I too want American, not FBA. Yes, I definitely want American. We should be called American. If we can just get that stated that we are American and the only American, that would be great. You said, I had no idea Pan-Africanism still exists in the United States. Unfortunately, we are the mouthpiece of Pan-Africanism. We are the ones that speak the most about Pan-Africanism versus the Africans who need to be Pan-African most of all, because they're the ones with all the people over there. I mean, they have like 1.3 billion people on the continent, and they should be trying to go over there to unravel all the different tribes and conflict that's over there to unify among themselves. The issue is they're scapegoating to us, trying to put it all on us as a burden to fix what's wrong with them. And it's like, we're not your savior. We're not Jesus. We're not your sacrificial lamb. We're not going to do what you're supposed to do. I'm sorry that Africans have made different treaties or different things with colonizers that have put them back for so long, but it's not up to us to make it better. It's up to them to make it better. And again, it's going to happen with sacrifice. It's going to happen with war. And I got to worry about our destiny and prohibiting the destiny swap that was attempted by the Democrats. And that's the point of this video. We're on to you, Democrats, if you're listening. We know that you are trying to destiny swap us out of our position here as Americans, in particular, the indigenous American blacks, and we're not settling for what you're attempting to do. Trump is going to fix a lot of this stuff, and I pray that the birthright citizenship ends, because that's really going to set everything in stone and make our situation a whole lot better. So thank y'all for listening. Please like and share the video. I hope that you guys have a blessed Sunday. Please, if you have not yet, please hit that like button. Please share the video and subscribe to the channel, and bless up.